Alright, so we've started on the Rubrail for this whaler, and we started at the corner, and you take and cut these at an angle. There's two parts to this, so if you look right here, there's a piece of rubber that wraps right here on the corner, and then the rigid vinyl for the insert goes on top of that, and that just sandwiches this L-shaped or L-channel rubber. And so we go along with a system of clamping, and we're almost coming up to where we're going to make a sharp corner. So we kind of clamp and go. Every 6 inches we're drilling and putting in some 5200 and then the rivets. And so there's another piece of that L channel right there. And then Steve's got the heat gun. That is the magic sauce when it comes to uncurling this, because this rigid vinyl is very rigid indeed. So we tried soaking in the bathtub first, and that was pretty much useless. So heat gun was the ticket. So anyway, we're going to work our way around the corner. I'll set this on the tripod, and you can kind of see the process that we go through on a couple of this. I won't make you watch the whole thing because this will probably take us another hour. Alright, so this is definitely a two-man job. So Steve is working the pieces for me, and then we're going to use the heat gun right here. Just kind of, with a heat gun, you probably know this, but just keep it moving. You hold it in one place too long, the sucker gets hot and it will deform that rigid vinyl. So you definitely want to keep it moving. There you go. So Steve pulled on it, stretched it a little bit, and that really helps it pull in. Now I'm going to go ahead and move one of my clamps and get this up a little bit more. Ideally, this would be great with about 4 clamps. You wouldn't have to move them as often. And then I've got a rubber mallet with some white, with the white side that we can take and smack that down. Trying to keep this nice and straight as we go. Alright, rivets every 6 inches. So we'll mark the holes ahead of time. First time you drill through your boat, it's kind of nerve-wracking because it's like I'm putting a hole in my boat. But a little 5200 sealant in there. Load up a rivet. These are 3/16 aluminum. And get that seated in the hole. Get your first squeeze, second squeeze. Get that a snap. And that's it. We'll keep moving around the edge. When we get to this tight corner right here, where Steve's left hand is there, we'll hit that with the heat gun again to wrap that turn. But basically, you start at one end and work your way all the way around the boat with that 2-piece, and then we'll give you a little more video when we get to the part where we put in the black rubber insert. Alright, so we'll take a look here at what we did last night. We worked into the dark, had a flashlight out here, or a work light. Now, I mentioned that heat gun. We had one spot where we heated up a little too much, and then we ended up, when we put the clamp on it, deformed it a little bit, so we're going to have to work out the wrinkles in that, probably heat it up again, maybe with some of that rubber foam insert in there, and see if that won't help it kind of come back to shape. We'll see. But all in all, not too bad if that's our only little wrinkle on the whole job of the boat. So we were able to get all the way around, and it's not bad. I mean, it looks pretty good if you look down and sight that. We were quite pleased with how this came out. So I'm just going to take a sander now and just kind of smooth up the ends here on those edges where it comes here, and especially on this end. This one's a little harder of the two to cut, so you can see I got a little more trimming, and probably hit that with a sander to smooth off that end right there. Get that flush with the end, because once we get that black rubber insert rail, you know, the end of that is going to pull out wrap around this corner, and then be secured to the stern of the boat. So we're going to do that a little bit later. We're going to work on getting the center console mounted down, and then go pick up some materials to build the seat platform for the back of the boat, and then we can fish all the wires through, all the cabling and everything from the center console back to the engine, get all that buttoned up. And so the Rubrail, the black rubber insert of the Rubrail will be the last thing to go on after everything is moved in and out of the boat, so we don't just get that torn up or anything. So I just got to do a little bit of cleanup from last night. All the little studs from our rivets are still sitting in the boat. Get those out, and we'll get started on mounting the center console down. So in this area right here, you may have noticed this crack developing here in the corner of the transom. And certainly with the weight of the engine hanging on that, you know, it does have a little bit of flex to it. I think what we're going to do, we're not going to tear this down. We are probably going to go ahead and get some stainless steel corner brackets to install here, and we're going to put one on each side. The other side has just a slight version of that crack. Just change this. Yeah, you can see that a little better now. So a small one developing here. So again, I think we're going to go ahead and put a stainless steel bracket in this corner just to help support the corners. Other than that, everything has been solid inside of this transom, but just got that little bit of a crack developing here in the gel coat. So we will take care of that. Alright, so at this area right here, we're going to go ahead and mount our bow light. And what we need to do is drill a hole here for the wire to come through here. We're going to drill another hole through the Rubrail receiver now, and all the way through to be able to fish that wire out and make the connections. So that's what we're going to work on next here. Go ahead and getting this mounted and set. So one of the things we're going to do right here, I got my holes drilled for the bow light, and now we need to drill a hole through the Rubrail so that these wires can come out through and you won't see them. But instead of coming straight off and then making those wires bend a steep 90-degree, we're going to start our hole over a little bit to the left and angle it back toward this hole, and then we'll fish the wire through at an angle. That'll help the wires to bend a little easier coming in behind the Rubrail insert. So that's what we're going to drill next. Doesn't have to be an extreme angle, just enough to give that wire a little bit less of a 90-degree bend that it has to make. So to fish our wire from this down into there, I'm going to go ahead and use this long twist tie. I'm going to try and grab it with these little surgical clamps. Pull it up. And then we'll tie that or tape that to our wires and pull it through. Alright, we've got this taped up. Let's see if we can't pull this through. Just kind of work it gently, because you don't, try not to have that let go inside. Gently pull, kind of push on the other end, and there we go. Here it comes. It is out. turned around. So we have a good orientation of the wires. And that's going to go on there. And then we'll put a seal of 5200 around this edge as we get this mounted. We'll do a crimp connector here. And again, that'll all hide behind the Rubrail. Heat shrink waterproof butt connectors. These are great. These are great things. Crimp them down. Give them a good tug. Make sure they're not going to come loose. And I want to make sure that both of these can fit behind here. And if they can't, what we'll do is we'll just hold one back and we'll stagger it, kind of like so. Park the wire in there. And that way there's only one butt connection underneath the Rubrail, at a time. But cutting a little piece of this off, you always have extra left over, so this is great for being able to just check out areas. I was also able to go to that area that I showed you earlier that had a wrinkle, and I put this over it, and once the Rubrail's on, you'll never see that wrinkle, so I don't even have to go over that again and try and work out the deformation that we caused with the heat gun. So. Alright, now I'm going to work on just getting this mounted down, get some 5200, get the screws on here, and get this ready to mount down and tighten it down. Steve's working on some of the rivets. When we went to pop them out, they didn't quite get the nail out all the way, so he's just filing down. There's about 2 or 3 of those around the boat, and he's just getting those filed down. So 5200 adhesive and sealant combination here. So we're going to get that hole well around this, and then I'm just going to get a little bit around the perimeter. I marked the edges with some pencil mark and go over those holes that those screws are going to go in. And just build a perimeter, keep water out. Get this a little closer and kind of work that sealant around as we make that. Give it another little shot before I get this down. Nice and heavy around there. So inside the center console, kind of goes like that, right? There's the steering wheel, give you some orientation, but I have this thing lying flat on the ground, and what I did was take this piece of metal here and I threaded, tapped and threaded this and added that on there, and inside of that junction box there I've put a black or negative bus bar inside of that, so it keeps it a little bit watertight, so when you reach in there you're not touching any wires on the negative side of things, so that'll keep it kind of watertight, out of the weather from any splash and everything like that. So that's a little bit of a modification done inside the console to allow for more connections of accessories and things like that. So, we're putting our center console back down. I'm just shooting some 5200 into these holes before I put the screws in. Some nice hefty screws here. Alright, we've got the Rubrail insert going now. We've got the end started here, folded over the edge. Steve's working it. Got our helper here kind of holding it straight for us. And look at that fabulous technique that Steve's working.
Oh yeah.
You squeeze it in.
Oh yeah, baby.
Looking good. That adds so much of a dimension to the boat though, isn't that awesome?